welcome to ELLY-B Automobile. In this video, I'll be talking on how to check your vehicle tire pressure. And this video is created for vehicle owners and new beginners that wants to own a car. So, as a new beginner that wants to own a car, you need to know what tire pressure is recommended for your vehicle. So to do this, let's start. For you to check your tire pressure, there are some tools that you will need. You need a tire pressure gauge, you need a pen and a paper, but most cars do come in with automatic tire pressure monitoring system, which check the tire pressure automatically and it is displayed on the driver's dashboard. But on this video, I'll be talking on how to check your vehicle's tire pressure manually using a tire pressure gauge. For you to be able to check your tire pressure, you have to know what is the manufacturer recommended tire pressure for your vehicle. This information can be gotten from your vehicle's owner's manual, and also you can get it from the driver's door. There's a sticker that is attached to the driver's door which contains information of your size of tire, the type of tire your vehicle is recommended to use, and the recommended tire pressure for all your tires on your vehicles, and the load capacity that the vehicle tire can carry. You might want to ask, how about the pressure that is written on the tire? The pressure written on the tire by the tire manufacturer is the maximum tire pressure that the tire can carry, and at which the tire can give out its optimum performance. So your pressure must not exceed the tire manufacturer's pressure, but it is advisable that when inflating your tire or deflating your tire, you must follow your vehicle's manufacturer recommended tire pressure for your vehicle, which will give your vehicle optimal performance. The sticker that is attached to the driver's side door, which contains the information of what type of tire, the size of tire, and the recommended tire pressure and the load capacity of the vehicle on the tires. The pressure recommendation for that on the sticker is referred to as the code inflation pressure for the vehicle. Temperature has a great effect or impact or influence on your tire pressure. An increase in temperature will cause an increase in pressure of air in your tire, while a decrease in temperature will also cause a decrease in pressure in your vehicle's tire. So the vehicle's manufacturer recommends that for you to check your tire pressure, you must check it in the early morning hours when the temperature is low, for you to be able to compare the recommended tire pressure by the vehicle's manufacturer and the tire pressure you got from the check in that early morning hours, so that if there is a difference, you can make correction. Like I've mentioned earlier, that the materials you need to check your vehicle's tire pressure is a tire pressure gauge, a pen and a paper to write down the figures. So now we are going to start the step to check your vehicle's tire pressure. So let's talk about the step to check your tire pressure. Step number one, take your biro and your paper, write down the recommended tire pressure by your vehicle's manufacturer for each of the tire on a piece of paper. Step number two, get your tire pressure gauge and ensure that your tire pressure gauge is calibrated on PSI, not bar. PSI simply means pounds per square inch. So your tire pressure must have a scale for PSI. Step number 3, unscrew the valve stem cap on the valve and keep it in a safe place so that you don't misplace it. Step number 4, insert the pressure gauge onto the valve stem. Press it down firmly until you notice air entering the valve gauge and there is a movement on the scale. Step number 5, as soon as the gauge starts moving, watch it for 3 to 4 seconds until it is steady on a particular scale, then record the value on that particular scale. Then now you've gotten the tire pressure for that particular tire. Now you have to repeat the same process for every other tire and record the value that you got from the other tires. As soon as you are done with this, you replace the valve cap, the valve stem cap, insert it back onto the valve stem and screw it down firmly. The valve stem cap is there to protect the valve stem or the valve inside the stem from dirty and from mud. As soon as you are done getting all the figures and tabulating all the figures that you got from the checks on all 4 tires, compare the values that you got from the checks with the vehicle's manufacturer recommended tire pressure for your vehicle. Yes, you've gotten your values and you've seen the difference. Now I'm going to make an example using a scenario, assuming I have a vehicle here with me and the manufacturer recommended tire pressure will be stated. I'm going to use an example to illustrate what I've just explained to you. So if I'm making an example using the recommended tire pressure for my vehicle as for the front tires and the rear tires. So my vehicle's manufacturer recommended tire pressure for the front tire is 35 psi and for the rear tires is 35 psi. So I will start by saying front right tire recommended tire pressure 35 psi, front left tire recommended tire pressure 35 psi, rear right tire recommended tire pressure 35 psi, and rear left tire recommended tire pressure 35 psi. Then from my check, front right tire 34 psi, front left tire 30 psi, and rear right tire 40 psi, rear left tire 33 psi. From the value I got from my check, front right tire is underinflated with 1 psi. Front left tire is underinflated with 5 psi. And front and rear right tire is overinflated by 5 psi and rear left tire is underinflated by 2 psi. So let's get the difference and know exactly what to do. Now you've noticed that some of my tires are underinflated while some are overinflated. So for me to know how to inflate or deflate the tire, the front right tire, I add air to it and additional 1 psi to the front right tire. Then for the front left tire, I add 4 psi and as an additional pressure to the front left tire. Rear right tire, since the tire is overinflated, I will have to bleed off air until the pressure reading comes down to 35 psi. While the rear left tire, I'll add air to it 2 psi to make it 35 psi. So the test that we've just done now is when the vehicle has not been driven overnight, and this test is done at the early morning hours. And for you to be able to put air into this tire or deflate, you will need to have a portable compressor machine, the one you carry along in your vehicle. So if you have this kind of compressor, the portable one that do go along with you in your vehicle, then you can do this as well. And at this time, you'll be able to get the cold inflation tire. So every 4 tires will be inflated to 35 psi. The second example I will give is after checking your vehicle tire pressure in the early morning hours and you've gotten your value, and you do not have a portable compressor machine to inflate or deflate the tire in your possession, in your house or maybe at your office, then you will have to drive this car for some miles to a gas station when you add air to the tire to increase the pressure or to deflate air from the tire to reduce the pressure. But notice that at this time, temperature will have an impact on the vehicle's tire pressure. So the tire pressure that you initially checked, the value you got, and the distance you drive the car through to the gas station, the heat generated by the tire in contact with the road will have a great influence on the tire pressure. So I'm going to use an illustration, an example to show you how the temperature have an impact on the vehicle tire pressure as you drive it down to a gas station, and how to check the value or the amount of air to add to the tire pressure to get your recommended tire manufacturer pressure. So I will continue with the other value that we used initially for the first example, which the front right tire we got 34 psi, the front left tire we got 30 psi, the rear right tire we got 40 psi, and the rear left tire we got 33 psi. So we take this as the initial checks that you did before driving the vehicle to the gas station. So bear in mind, you keep this value because I'll be using it as the example for the next example. So we have driven the car for a particular distance and the temperature heated up, and it caused an increase in the pressure within the tire that rose the pressure within the tire with an additional 2 psi. So when we get to the gas station and we check the tire pressure again before topping up pressure or deflating the tire pressure to recommended tire pressure. So after getting to the gas station, I check the tire pressure, and I discover an additional 2 psi has been added to the initial pressure that I got before leaving the house. So for this reason, the tire pressure increased. The front right tire got an additional 2 psi, and at the gas station I got a pressure of 36 psi. The front left tire got an additional 2 psi. Initially was 30 psi, now becomes 32 psi. The right rear tire got an additional 2 psi and it now becomes 42 psi. The rear left tire got an additional 2 psi and became 35 psi. Mind you, the 35 psi, which is the value, but it is not the recommended tire pressure by the vehicle's manufacturer, because at this level the temperature has an impact on has an influence on the pressure within the tire. So for us to inflate our tire or deflate our tire from the value we've gotten at the gas station, you from the value we got at the gas station, we will have to add the difference in the initial pressure of the vehicle before we left the house, which is for the front right tire, we had a difference of 1 psi. So when we add that 1 psi to what we got at the gas station, becomes it becomes 36 psi plus 1 psi to give us 37 psi. Then for the front left tire, at the gas station we got 32 psi, and the difference at the initial temperature pressure of the tire was 4 psi. So 32 psi plus 4 psi, we get 36 psi. So the rear left tire, we got 33 psi as the initial check, but at the gas station we had 35 psi. So the difference of 33 psi minus 35 psi, which is 2 psi, plus the 35 psi, we are getting 37 psi. Therefore, the right rear tire, which is 40 psi that we got initially, and a difference of 5 psi from the recommended tire pressure because the tire is overinflated, we now subtract the 5 psi from the 42 psi we got at the gas station, and the pressure will now come up to 37 psi. The pressure value that we have gotten, which is front right tire 37 psi, front left tire 36 psi, and the rear left tire 37 psi, while the rear right tire 37 psi. At the one at this time, the temperature of the tire is high, so the pressure is increased. But it is recommended that the next morning, when you check the vehicle's tire pressure manually, you will notice that all four tires have regained to normal, which is the 35 psi for each tire by your vehicle's manufacturer, because as at that time the temperature of the tire has reduced to the to has reduced, and it is at the cool time or at the cool level where it is reflecting the cool inflation tire recommended by your vehicle's manufacturer. Most car owners do drive their vehicle on overinflated tire, or their tire are underinflated. There are a lot of dangers driving your car on a tire that is overinflated or underinflated. So for driving your car on overinflated tire, you experience lack of traction control due to small contact area or patch with the tire and the road, which could lead to sliding when approaching the corner on the speed. There will be excessive wear on the center tread that make contact on the road. Your driving becomes uncomfortable because hitting on a uneven surface road, the impact will be transferred to the driver, and an overinflated tire have a negative effect on the ABS control system. Overinflated tire also have effects on the electronic stability control system of the vehicle. Now you've seen some of the reasons why your vehicle should not be driven on overinflated tire, because there are a lot of risks associated with driving on overinflated tire. Overinflated tire can lead to serious accidents. So please, I recommend you check your tire pressure routinely to ensure that your tire have a good contact with the road. Likewise, underinflated tires also have some negative effect on your vehicle's handling and performance. Now, underinflated tire will cost you poor fuel economy. The vehicle will be using more fuel to move the vehicle forward. The engine consumes more fuel when your tire are underinflated. Underinflated tire could cause damage to the wear to the tire walls and also the side treads of the tire, which would lead to serious accident when driving or handling the vehicle. An underinflated tire can cause serious accident if not taken care of. So it is recommended by vehicles manufacturer that you check your tire pressure once a month, or if you are embarking on a long trip. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this video will guide you on how to check your vehicle tire pressure, and please ensure to make sure your vehicle tire pressure is at the normal pressure recommended by your vehicle's manufacturer. Please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button and press the like button, and make some comments. When I release any new video, you will be the first to know. Thank you for watching.